Here we are. You guys know what time it is, listeners. It's REDSTAR Daily Update. It is time for us to jump into our relationship here with the REDSTAR folks and learn about what advantages we can provide you during this growing season. We're here to talk about the timing of fungicide applications with the folks from REDSTAR. Again, just to remind you, you got Brody, Ryan, and Tom here. Brody, let's start off with why is it important to pay attention to when you apply a fungicide?
Yeah, so two purposes that we typically see around fungicide. Obviously, a fungicide's there is to keep the plant healthy from a fungicidal standpoint. So if we have any sort of disease, we want the fungicide there to be able to get us through the reproductive stages when that plant is focused on reproducing and not really protecting itself as much. The other thing is just from a general plant health standpoint and what it does to help lower stress, and we visually can see those health benefits. But from a physiological standpoint, your plant goes through a natural curve of transpiration, and and transpiration is no more than water being pulled through the plant so it can pull nutrients to it. And so through the vegetative time frames, that plant wants to pull as much water as it can through it so it can pull as much nutrients as it can through mass flow to be able to create sugars, create carbohydrates, and produce the energy that then can be translocated into its offspring or into the ear then during reproduction. And so when we look at the timing and that natural curve, once we tassel, transpiration naturally drops. And so that's the key time frame from a physiological standpoint, that we're not disrupting the transpiration process and our nutrient carbohydrate creation or carbohydrate creation, and we can help protect the plant the most at that time frame as well.
And that's where nitrogen becomes such a huge part of it, right? Because the nitrogen is what's going to be responsible for us making those starches and proteins, and it's going to drive really ear feel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we've got to watch the weather a little bit. And that's why we do so many things with the demand curves, is we can pretty well dial in to what Dr. Fred Belo's done over the years and say, we need to make sure that we have what we need when we need it. And the big concern I have right now is nitrogen because of all the moisture we've had. And one of the things that we developed specifically for the 2024 use season is a new product called Finish Line. And it was developed from the standpoint of when you get to VT and R1, that plant would prefer to have ammonium nitrogen because it takes it in right now and it uses it and processes it. Most of the time, because of our soil temperatures, the minute you put anything nitrogen in the soil, it's converting from ammonium to nitrate in a period of 48 hours. So what we've done is developed a product that is ammonium, and we've protected it. So when you put it on, either Y-drop or through fertigation, and it hits that soil, it's going to stay in the ammonium form for 2 to 3 weeks, which means that plant is going to readily suck it up and utilize it. Doesn't have to expend any energy to strip off the oxygen from nitrate and add hydrogen. It's in that NH4 form. And so the plant can just use it right now. We should call it right now nitrogen is what we should do. But we look at that as critical. So if you're in parts of the Midwest that don't have irrigation, but you're Y-dropping, Finish Line's an excellent product. If you're out in the Western Corn Belt, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Kansas, where there's a lot of irrigation, it's our preferred product as we go through the pivot to make sure that it gets to that crop, gets utilized. And the big thing, protect it from leaching, prevent it from, volatilization off the soil surface. So that's one that we're excited about.
Then we also have sulfur in there in the sulfate form and some potash. So it's a complete product, and it's red, so it fits us.
So we've talked about the Y-drop method through our irrigation, whether it's through pivot or drip, whichever it is. But Ryan, what other ways do your customers apply their fungicides?
So we can also help you out with drone applications if you're in the Midwest. We partnered with Terraplex, so if you're in Iowa, Minnesota, we can help you out there. If you're in Nebraska, we can help you out with drones or Rogator type stuff or planes. So yeah, we have all sorts of different options.
On top of that, with the drone application, we hit on the fertigation, hit on the Y-drop, but you look at Iowa, you look at Illinois, there's not as much of that going on. And so what is another way that we can get amino acids and proteins into the plant, but also add another level of stress mitigation to that plant?
Well, Elevate Plus and Novastar are amino acid. So the Elevate Plus, it's slow-release nitrogen, it's potassium, it's sulfur, and a whole array of micros, boron, manganese, zinc. And then, obviously, the Novastar is the polypeptide amino acid. It's going to help plant stress. It's just going to help improve that overall system inside that corn plant. Those two products together have done really, really well in all of our yield trials the last 2 years.
What about like a recess Novastar type combination too?
Absolutely. I mean, you can run obviously recess and or Red Shield, right? Again, once we get that potassium, type technology that we have in those products, it's just going to help, drive plant health and drive yield.
That's good. Well, guys, another great segment for our listeners. Excited to bring a couple more yet this growing season because we're not giving up on that crop. We want to maximize our yield potential. So if listeners want to reach out to you guys, how do they do that, Ryan?
Look us up on Facebook, Twitter, RedStarNE.com or RedStarBranded.com.
That's right. Well, stay tuned. We'll be back next week.